The Amazon stretched endlessly before her, green ocean of life and mystery that swallowed everything in its path. Aria had always dreamt of adventure, but never had she imagined herself standing at the heart of one of the most untamed places on Earth, alone and uncertain. The helicopter crash that had brought her here was a blur of fire and terror. One moment, she was photographing rare orchids for a conservation magazine, and the next, she was dragging herself out of twisted metal into the suffocating embrace of the jungle. Her clothes were torn, her camera smashed, and the radio, her only link to the outside world, was silent. She was truly alone, and the Amazon was not a place that welcomed the unprepared. The humidity was oppressive, clinging to her skin like a wet cloth, while the buzzing chorus of insects was constant and maddening. Yet beneath the chaos of sounds and shadows, Aria felt something deeper, a pulse, ancient and alive, as if the forest itself was watching her. The canopy above filtered the sunlight into shifting beams that barely touched the jungle floor, where roots, vines, and unknown creatures wove a living maze around her. Every direction looked the same, and with each step, she felt the forest pulling her deeper into its labyrinth. Panic whispered at the edges of her mind, but she pushed it down. Survival, she told herself, begins with focus. Her first task was water. The crash had left her with nothing but a dented metal bottle, and without water, she would last only days. She followed the faint sound of trickling in the distance, forcing her way through thick foliage, until she found a narrow stream glistening in the filtered light. She knelt beside it, sipping cautiously, remembering that even clear water could harbor invisible dangers. Still, the taste of life steadied her nerves. Next was shelter. Using fallen branches and broad palm leaves, she built a crude lean-to against the trunk of a massive ceiba tree. It wasn't much, but it was protection, from rain, from the unknown. As night fell, the Amazon transformed. The sky turned black beneath the canopy, and a new orchestra of sounds rose around her. Guttural calls, distant howls, and the slithering movement of unseen predators. She clutched a sharpened stick she had fashioned into a makeshift spear, praying it would be enough. The darkness pressed close, and for the first time, Aria felt the weight of her isolation. But beneath the fear, a spark ignited, the will to survive. The Amazon might try to break her, but she would fight. Somewhere beyond the trees, beyond the endless green, there was a way out. And she would find it. Days passed in the tribe's care, and Aria's strength slowly returned. But with it came new questions. Who were these people? How had they lived undisturbed for so long? And more importantly, could they help her find a way home? Communication was still difficult. Yet through gestures and patience, she learned fragments of their world. They called themselves the Children of the River, a name that spoke of their bond with the land and its creatures. They lived with the jungle, not against it. Every tree, every animal, every drop of rain part of their existence. Aria admired them deeply, but she also knew she could not stay forever. One morning, the elder approached her with a proposition. If she wished their help in finding the edge of the forest, she must first prove herself, not through strength or violence, but by surviving a sacred trial. It was a rite of passage, a journey that every warrior and hunter in their tribe undertook. Aria accepted without hesitation. She had faced hunger, predators, and fear itself. This would be no different, or so she thought. The trial began at dawn. Armed with only a spear, a knife, and her instincts, she was led deep into an uncharted part of the jungle, a place even the tribe seldom ventured. The air grew thicker, the ground more treacherous. Vines as thick as her arm coiled around ancient trees, and the calls of unseen animals echoed from every direction. Aria's challenge was simple. Survive 3 days and return to the village with proof that she had faced the wild head-on. On the second night, she encountered her greatest test yet. A guttural roar shattered the silence. A massive black jaguar, larger than any she had seen before, emerged from the undergrowth. Its golden eyes locked on her, and in that instant, prey and predator faced off. Aria stood her ground, gripping her spear with trembling hands. When the beast lunged, she rolled aside, thrusting her weapon with desperate precision. The jungle erupted into chaos, claws, snarls, and the raw will to survive clashed beneath the moonlit canopy. When the fight ended, Aria stood victorious but exhausted, her spear bloodied and her body bruised. She whispered a silent prayer of respect over the fallen creature, a life taken not for glory but survival. On the third day, she returned to the tribe with a single jaguar tooth as proof. The elder received it with solemn reverence and declared her a daughter of the river. Aria's journey was far from over, but now she was no longer a stranger in the Amazon. She had earned its respect, and perhaps its guidance for the final leg of her path home. By the second day, Aria had learned one undeniable truth. The Amazon was not just a forest. It was a living force, testing every ounce of her will. Each step forward was a battle against mud, thorns, and unseen dangers lurking beneath the leaves. She moved carefully, marking trees with her knife to avoid walking in circles. Her plan was simple: follow the river downstream. Civilization often thrived near water, and the current would be her guide. But the river was no gentle companion. It twisted like a serpent through the jungle, dragging her deeper into its green labyrinth and into challenges she had never imagined. The first sign of danger came with the silence. The jungle's constant hum vanished, replaced by an eerie stillness that made the hairs on her neck stand up. Aria froze, scanning the undergrowth. Then it moved. A flash of brown and black as a jaguar stepped into the clearing, its golden eyes fixed on her. Her heart pounded. Running was pointless. Jaguars were fast and silent killers. Instead, she raised her spear and backed slowly toward a tree. The big cat circled, muscles rippling beneath its spotted coat. For endless seconds, they stared at each other. Predator and intruder locked in a primal standoff. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the jaguar melted back into the shadows, leaving Aria trembling but alive. It was a reminder. In the Amazon, she was not at the top of the food chain. Hours later, rain began to fall, not a gentle drizzle, but a tropical downpour that turned the ground into a river of mud. Her shelter collapsed, and her clothes clung to her skin like ice. Yet the rain also offered a gift. It filled her bottle and washed away the insects that had been tormenting her. Exhausted but relieved, she pressed onward, guided by the steady roar of the river. Along the banks, she discovered edible fruits and leaves, learning to identify them from fragments of memory from a survival guide she once read. Hunger gnawed at her, but she ate sparingly, knowing that too much could make her sick. As dusk approached, she stumbled upon something that froze her blood: a human footprint. It was fresh, pressed into the wet soil and too large to be hers. Her heart raced. Could it be a local tribe, a lost traveler, or something far more dangerous? Whatever it was, she was no longer alone. The forest, once a silent adversary, now felt like it was watching her with new eyes. Aria gripped her spear tighter. Every rustle, every shadow could mean salvation or doom. And as night descended again over the endless green, one thought echoed in her mind. The real battle for survival was just beginning. Aria woke at dawn with a strange unease crawling beneath her skin. The memory of that footprint haunted her dreams, a silent sign that she was not alone. In this endless green, she moved cautiously, every sense sharpened, every sound a possible clue. Hours passed without sight of another human, yet the forest's energy had shifted. It no longer felt empty. The rustle of leaves seemed to follow her, and distant echoes, perhaps voices, perhaps the wind teased the edge of her hearing. Whoever or whatever was out there, they were close, and that meant her journey was about to change. By midday, she found evidence that erased all doubt: a crude spear leaning against a tree, freshly carved and still smelling of sap. Near it, a ring of ashes marked a small fire pit. Relief and fear battled inside her. If it was a tribe, they might help her, or they might see her as an intruder. If it was someone else lost, they could join forces, or fight for the same scarce resources. Her choices were few. She followed the faint trail that led away from the camp, every step deliberate, her spear raised and heart pounding. The path wound deeper into the jungle, until it ended abruptly at a clearing that took her breath away. There, woven into the trees, was a settlement. Small huts built from wood and palm leaves, smoke curling from a central fire. Figures moved silently between them, their bodies painted with earthy pigments and adorned with feathers and beads. Aria watched from the shadows, mesmerized. They were a tribe, isolated, ancient, untouched by the outside world. But before she could decide what to do, a voice shouted behind her. She spun around to see two warriors emerging from the trees, spears leveled at her chest. Panic surged, but she didn't run. Instead, she raised her hands and spoke calmly, hoping they would understand. They surrounded her, their eyes wary but curious. After a tense silence, one gestured for her to follow. Aria was led into the heart of the settlement, where an elder woman sat beside the fire. Her eyes, deep and knowing, studied Aria with a mixture of suspicion and intrigue. Aria spoke slowly, using gestures and simple words to explain her story. The crash, the jungle, her fight to survive. The elder listened, then nodded. To Aria's relief, they offered her water and a place to rest. She was safe, for now. But deep inside, she knew this was not the end. The Amazon had brought her here for a reason, and her greatest challenges still waited beyond the trees.